Are we on? Are we on? Hi! You know what time it is. 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 It's story time. It's story time. It's story time with Chris. Hi! One day I'm gonna make a theme song and an intro for these videos, but until then, hi! Welcome back with Storytime with Chris. And no, I do not own the music in the background which you're listening to. This is brought to you by, hold on, let me put on my glasses, Bieta. So they are another ambient YouTube creator that makes ambient music, but more so specifically with Native American flute music. I've always been a fan of Native American philosophy and spirituality. So what I specifically talk about is the respect for Mother Earth, that the earth is sentient and that the earth is quite alive, and it is our due diligence as human beings to cultivate the earth, to give back rather than just solely take, to heal, to cultivate, to respect the earth and its inhabitants and its animals of all different forms, shapes, sizes, and colors. And I think it's just beautiful to be able to commune with nature, to see it as a sentient being. What does sentient mean? So sentient means to be alive, to be aware, to be living. And the planet is a living thing. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be able to have our own electromagnetic energy field around this planet. We wouldn't be able to have gravity, because that comes from the center of the planet's core, which maintains our gravity. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments from my geologists out there. But we are back with the remarkable journey of Prince Jen. And it seems our hero is about to do something that he has, quite frankly, no knowledge on. But we're going to see what happens, because he volunteered to go to the kingdom of Tianquo, which, for my friends that speak Mandarin and are of Chinese descent, please politely correct me in the comments or message me about my pronunciation of certain names and places. Forgive me, I do speak Japanese, but this is not a Japanese story. This is a Chinese-influenced mythological story, and my inflection may not be always the most correct, so I do apologize for that. So any of my friends that are of Chinese descent or speak Mandarin, if I butcher some of these pronunciations of names or places within the story, please politely correct me, okay? All right, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Chapter 2. Seeking worthy offerings, 6 valuable objects, 1 inconvenience. Ah! My hair was caught. Ooh, gracious. All right. Jin's face fell. He stared at dismay at Master Wu. But all is settled. What difficulty can there be? Finding suitable gifts, replied Master Wu. All who seek an audience with Huan Ming must bring him worthy offerings. Not to do so would be a most profound discourtesy, a mortal affront. Huan Ming is a kindly, reasonable monarch, but on this point I understand he is unshakable. Without acceptable tokens of esteem, young lord, you would surely be turned away. That difficulty is easily overcome, said King Tia. I will open the hall of priceless treasures and hold back nothing that may please Huan Ming. You know, it's funny, as I'm fixing my glasses because there's a stain. It's funny. I'm a 90s kid, and I knew other kids that also were influenced by this. We were blessed with a lot of, and not always correct, but we were blessed with a lot of cartoons, live action series that really put Chinese and Japanese mysticism and cultural spirituality and martial arts in the forefront. We had tons of movies and stuff that really pushed for that. Not to say that wasn't happening in decades before, but specifically in the 90s, it made me want to research and learn the actual facts of these cultures so that I can truly appreciate them and give them the respect that they deserve. And the only reason why I bring that up is because there was an anime series called Beyblade. If anybody remembers that, yes, you had a cool childhood. But there is one character who was of Chinese descent. His name was Wanrei, but he went by Rei, Wanrei. And then I used to play Dynasty Warriors, which the video game is not accurate to the actual novel, The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, completely, but the depictions of the different characters and the names and the pronunciation of those is how I was able to learn how to even read this properly. So, yeah, just fun fact about me and my appreciation for these types of stories. All cultures deserve to be shared. It's a beautiful thing. Jin's concern vanished. Only a matter of costly presents? Master Wu, you'll find more than enough. Perhaps, Master Wu said. We shall see. He turned to the king. I must be allowed to choose the gifts without question or objection to what I select. King Tia nodded. I put all my possessions at your disposal. The guards by now had recovered from their befuddlement and rushed into the pavilion. King Tia gestured for them to lower their swords and lances. He ordered their captain to carry word to General Li Kuang, the king's commander of palace troops. Li Kuang was to attend him later in the chamber of private discourses. Meantime, he was set to assemble princely escort of horsemen and foot soldiers, holding them ready to depart from the kingdom of Tianquo at the earliest moment. From the pavilion of joyful mornings, the king led Master Wu, Prince Jen, and Ma Fu to the hall of priceless treasures. The surprised first custodian unlocked the teak wood cabinets, opened huge golden coffers, and drew back the silken drapes from the alcoves. Master Wu glanced around him as the second and third custodians scurried ahead to unbar other chambers. Even as Master Wu began peering at the store of treasures, news of the king's intention spread from one department to the next. The highest officials urged King Tia to give up his ill-considered, ill-advised, and impossible plan. For once the king refused to heed them. If they thwarted his wishes, he warned them every official in the palace would be demoted by 2 grades. They fell silent instantly. Master Wu, meanwhile, continued inspecting the royal treasures. For 3 days he paced the chambers and galleries. Each day Prince Jen grew more dismayed. Master Wu shrugged at the priceless figurines of rare jade. He wrinkled his nose at the exquisite porcelain ware and waved a scornful hand at the intricate objects of pure gold. When King Tia came to learn the reason for delay, Master Wu shook his head. Among all these treasures, he declared as Prince Jen's heart sank, I find none worthy of offering to Huan Ming. One chamber remained unexamined. The first custodian assured the king that it held items of little value or interest. They had not been sorted, listed, or classified, and hardly merited even counting as part of the royal collection. Let me look at them, nevertheless, Master Wu said. Following him into this last chamber, Prince Jen glimpsed only a hodgepodge of dust-covered articles. He was about to turn away disappointed when Master Wu's eyes brightened. Here is one acceptable gift. He pointed to a curved sword leaning in a corner. The first custodian hastened to fetch it, but Master Wu stepped toward a pile of harness, leathers, stirrups, and other gear. There is a saddle, he said. I choose it as well. From then on, Master Wu unhesitatingly selected one item after the other, though his choices struck Prince Jen as being of much less value than the treasures in the other chambers. In addition to the first 2, Master Wu rummaged out 4 more. He bobbed his head and pronounced himself satisfied. The first custodian began to mention that a list must be made of any objects removed. He produced a tablet of paper and wrote according to Master Wu's direction. Item: 1 sword, iron with scabbard, likewise including tassels and attaching rings. A saddle of tooled leather with stirrups and bridle. A flute of painted wood. A bowl, bronze, 1 handspan in circumference. A box of sandalwood, containing 1 paintbrush, 1 inkstick, and 1 inkstone for grinding same. 1 kite, paper, bird-shaped with wooden rods and struts, disassembled, including 1 ball of string. A child's toy? Prince Jen, hearing this last object name, whispered to Ma Fu, What value does this have for Huan Ming? Master Wu can't be serious. Ma Fu shrugged. At least it's easy to carry. What if the old bird had picked a pair of 10-foot vases? Or vases. General Li Kuang had done his king's bidding perfectly. Assembled in the palace courtyard the next morning, a splendid escort of cavalry and foot soldiers stood ready while Prince Jin knelt to take leave of his father. He'd expected Master Wu to be on hand to offer parting words of advice, but the old man was nowhere to be found. The 6 chosen objects had been wrapped in silk and set beside Prince Jin in a carriage canopied in yellow brocade. Ma Fu had appointed himself driver of the pair of white horses. The jade gate was flung open, tall banners fluttering, tassels swinging in the necks of the steeds, horsehair plumes waving at the crests of glittering helmets. The procession crossed the great square of tranquil harmony. Word of Prince Jin's purpose had been cried out through Chang'an. As the carriage passed, the townspeople dropped to their knees and called down 10,000 blessings on the journey. As for Prince Jin, his long hair bound up under a tall cap stiff with gold embroidery, his robes wrapped around him and tied with a sash at his waist, he composed his features in a long look of calm dignity, as he had always been instructed to do. However, with the cheers of the townsfolk ringing in his ears, he found this attitude more and more difficult. "Has there ever been a day like this?" he cried. "Has the sky ever been so blue, or the sun so bright? The air has a fragrance I never smelled in the palace. What is this spicy perfume?" "Let me analyze it," Ma Fu sniffed loudly. "Ah, yes, I can identify the subtle ingredients. 1 part fried cabbage, 1 part wandering livestock, 2 parts old rags, 4 parts sweat. The rest, a concentrated absence of cash, mixed with the correct proportions of thievery, beggary, and a generous pinch of greedy officials. It is called sublime essence of wretchedness. Sublime essence of wretchedness." "You make sport of my ignorance," Prince Jin said reproachfully. No, Ma Fu protested. "Ignorance is a common ailment. In time it goes away, unless it proves fatal." Passing through the outskirts of Chang'an, Prince Jin was appalled to observe the ramshackle dwellings patched together with paper, straw, and plaster, none of them as spacious as the palace kennels or pigeon coops. Street urchins picked through heaps of rubbish. A bent-backed old woman and a dog, lean as a skeleton, disputed over a bone in the gutter. "One of our nicer neighborhoods," Ma Fu remarked. "Can there be worse?" Jin burst out. "I never realized. Ma Fu, I must learn all I can for Huan Ming, and come back as soon as possible to help these folk." "Agreed." Ma Fu slapped the reins. "Especially the part about as soon as possible." Passing the Happy Phoenix Gardens and crossing the Lotus Bridge, they left the capital well behind them. Prince Jin's earnest concern for what he had seen strengthened his resolution. At the same time, he could not imagine a pleasanter way to accomplish a noble purpose. Halting at the end of the first day on the road, Ma Fu pitched a silk tent and set up comfortable couches from the supply wagons. He obtained chairs, tabourets, flowered screens, and a cooking brazier. As courtesy required, Prince Jin invited Li Kuang to share the excellent meal Ma Fu himself had prepared. After the obligatory expressions of gratitude, the gray-headed, battle-scarred warrior addressed Prince Jin. "His Divine Majesty entrusted your life to my care," Ling Kuang said. "I gave him my solemn vow that I and my men will guard you with our lives. Young Lord Prince, I repeat that vow to you." "Honorable Li Kuang," Prince Jin graciously replied, "between you and my good servant, what harm can come to me?" Next day, Prince Jin wondered if he had spoken too soon. The royal retinue had been following the river Lan, which Li Kuang intended crossing, thus gaining the easier road through the western province. A disturbance at the head of the column caused Ma Fu to rein in the horses. Moments later, Li Kuang galloped up, dripping wet. "Oh, excuse me." "My outriders saw an old man struggling in the river," he reported. "They halted to pull him out." "They did well," Prince Jin said. "Aiding the elderly is Master Hu taught me, one of the 14 excellent deeds." They failed, Li Kuang replied. For all their efforts, my men could not remove him. Li Kuang added that he himself had plunged into the river and failed equally. Even at this moment, the hapless victim still struggled, his strength ebbing. Puzzled as to why a simple matter had proved so difficult, Prince Jin impatiently jumped from the carriage and beckoned Ma Fu to accompany him. At the banks of the Lan, he hurried down the grassy slope. Half a dozen of Li Kuang's soldiers continued striving vainly to haul ashore a frail, white-bearded figure. Prince Jin quickly realized that the soldiers were hindering by their armor and the quilted skirts of their tunics. Ma Fu, Prince Jin ordered, go yourself and pull him out. Casting an uneasy eye at the swift current, Ma Fu scrambled down to seize the old man by the scruff of the neck. Soon, however, Ma Fu stumbled back to the side of Prince Jin. He's as slippery as an eel, Ma Fu cried. I can't get a hold of him. I must believe he prefers not to be rescued. Then why is he shouting for help? Surprised at the inability of Ma Fu and seeing that no further moments could be wasted, Prince Jin strode to the water's edge. There the aged man sputtered and blubbered, desperately begging for someone to save him. Prince Jin rolled up the sleeves of his robe and took a firm grip on the skinny hand reaching out to him. Next moment, Prince Jin's arm was clutched with astonishing vigor. Before he could dig in his heels, he found himself pulled headlong into the stream, seized around the neck, and so befuddled by flailing legs that he went spitting and choking to the riverbed. Prince Jin's praiseworthy attempt has only put him in danger of being drowned. The outcome is told in the next chapter. See, it's these little excerpts that happen at the end of the chapter. I'm not making this up. Because we did it for chapter 1. Hold on. Yes. So all these chapters are going to end like this, where we get this, like, I'm going to just call it afterwards. We get this Dragon Ball level narration, like, next time on Dragon Ball Z. Like, they always give you this, like, quick little synopsis of, will Goku be able to unleash the full power of the Spirit Bomb on Frieza? Will Piccolo be able to buy enough time? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. Like, they always would do this, like, melodramatic type of, snippet of what would come next. And I guess that's what I'm gonna give for next time. As always, y'all, have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.